select the 7 commissioners to be the ones to do, all these specific assignments that the commission is supposed to be doing. Similarly, and by parity of thought, when the law says that the commission shall, for purposes of this, generate that Form 34C, the law does not contemplate that the chairperson of a commission will sit with a laptop and make 46,000 plus entries by himself. This is what my learned senior counsel Kamau Karori was speaking to. This is what is contemplated under Section 11 and 11A of the IBC Act. And so, if we then tie this to the submission that he had earlier on made, that if we read under Article 138(3)(c), the Independent Electoral Commission to mean the entire institution, then we would not run into the problems that we are running into. Because as we saw, and as will be demonstrated in by our subsequent speakers, that exactly is what happened. The entire bureaucracy or the entire institution of IBC participated in that process. As I conclude, I want to make a submission that when we make these allegations in our election petitions, perhaps we need to also ask ourselves if we have done that which the law contemplates of us. And that if the law gives you an opportunity to choose your agent for purposes of verifying or speaking to you in relation to the processes in the election, if you fail to present an agent, would it be appropriate to then come and burden the subsequent processes through applications such as what we're seeing for scrutiny? Because the law contemplates that that agent should be able to point you to the fact there's a problem in a particular primary school. Go there. Don't ask for the entire of a constituency. Don't ask for the entire of a county. And I think that has been the jurisprudence that has been developed. It then follows that we must sanctify the place of agents in our elections. And because agents are like our spouses, you choose your own. You choose the one you trust. If you get, nobody imposes an agent on you. If you choose one you don't trust, then really you can't blame anyone. If you choose one who does not understand why you assigned them that responsibility, again, you cannot possibly blame anyone. So, as I seek to take my seat, we ask, my ladies and my lords, that in the usual strong manner in which you've spoken in relation to these issues, and following the very lengthy submissions that we had yesterday, we also rely on you to help us clean this electoral system so that as the commission does its part, on the other hand, the public and every other person must also do their part. I am most obliged, and thank you for according me this opportunity.
My Lady, the Chief Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice, and the members of the Supreme Court, it's indeed a great honor to appear before you in relation to this petition. My role today here is to take you through the numbers. I will take you through the numbers. The numbers will be running on the screen.
Your name, please.
My name is Mahar Somane, Advocate. My name is Mahar Somane, Advocate. I'll take you through the numbers as it relates to the petition that has been filed. I will also give you an audit trail of mechanism which the court can use to measure the petition. The first question that I'll answer today relates to the question that has been put to us. And the first one is whether the postponement of gubernatorial elections in Kakamega and Mombasa counties, parliamentary elections in Kitui Rural, Kacheliba, Rongai, and Pokot South constituencies, and electoral wards in Nyaki West, in North Imenti, and Kwanjenga in Embakasi resulted in voter suppression. The allegation of voter suppression due to postponement of these elections is not a question of hypothesis. It's a question of fact. It's a question of numbers. What I have done is we have gone through the numbers to give you a comparative data on whether the same is true. The first one, as it relates to Kitui Rural, we have gotten the data for the constituencies in Kitui. Your Ladyship, if you look at the constituencies for Kitui, the voter turnout for Kitui Rural was 60.29%. So for us to actually make a comparative data and analysis to actually see whether there's been voter suppression, we look at the constituencies nearby and see the data we are getting from the constituencies nearby, whether the inference can be made by this court that there has been voter suppression. The voter turnout for Kitui Rural is 60.29%. I have highlighted in yellow in your screens. It is comparatively similar to the voter turnout in Kitui Central. In fact, it is Kitui Rural is higher. Kitui Central is 60.10. It's comparative to Mwingi Central. So to the question the court asked, whether there was voter suppression in Kitui Central constituency because of the postponed election, the answer is an emphatic no. I will go to the second question. The second question the court asked is whether the postponement of elections in Kachaliba and Pokot South led to a voter suppression that led to a low voter turnout in favor of the petitioner. The answer is data-based. I have provided the comparative analysis. I want the court to look at it. The voter turnout for West Pokot was 81.44. The voter turnout for for Kachaliba was 81.44. I have highlighted in yellow. The voter turnout for Pokot South is 80.44. It is higher than Kapenguria. It is higher than Sigor. Comparatively, in fact, those voter turnouts were higher than the ones which the elections were not proposed. That claim falls flat on the data that were provided to court. I will proceed. I will go to Rongai. The question the court asked is whether the postponed elections in Rongai led to suppression of voter. I have provided the data on Rongai. The voter turnout of Rongai was 61.41 for the presidential. It is higher than in Joro. It is higher than in Naivasha. And it's comparatively similar to the other similar constituencies. To the allegation that there was voter suppression in those places because of the election that was postponed, that allegation is untrue, falls flat on the data we have provided. To the other question, whether the postponed elections in the MCA ward for Nyaki West led to voter suppression, the voter turnout for Nyaki West was 64.32. If you look at North Imenti, it was even lower. It's comparatively similar to the other we have provided. To that allegation, that falls flat on the data than the comparative data we have provided. To the allegation that the MCA ward in Kwanjenga, that there was voter suppression because of that, the MCA ward in Kwanjenga, the voter turnout was 46.32, comparatively similar to Embakasi South, which is 49.62, comparatively similar to Imara Daima and also in Pipeline. To that allegation, when you look at the comparative data, it's not a matter of hypothesis, it is not borne out by the data. To the allegation that the postponed elections in Kakamega led to voter suppression in terms of the petitioners' votes being undercast, the allegation falls flat on the comparative data. We have provided the data for Vihiga, which is similar. Bungoma was a bit higher, but Vihiga is the same. So comparatively, when you look at those data points, that allegation falls flat. To the allegation that in Mombasa, there was a voter suppression because of the election that was won, I want to point out, even in 2017, the general voter turnout in Mombasa is generally very low. That data is available. It's always lower than the other constituencies. But comparatively, it is almost something that is comparable. To those, so I have answered. So to the question that the court put out on the comparative data, the answer is there was no voter suppression in those places. Senior Counsel Kamau Karori has already explained on the reasons why those elections was not held. There was nothing premeditated about those elections, not holding those elections. Reasons have been given in the affidavits of the chairman Wafula Chebukati and Marjan Hussein Marjan. So to that allegation, we want to show the court the petitioners have a hypothesis We have provided the data to the court to actually aid the court to come to a conclusion. The second question I want to answer that the court put out to us was whether there are unexplainable discrepancies between the votes cast for the presidential candidates and other elective posts. Indeed, if there was unexplainable discrepancies, is a grave issue, which we know. We will show through the data that we have provided to the court that the same is not true. In fact, we can account for each ballot. To just guide the court, refer to the affidavit of Moses Ledama Sunkuli, which is on record. We have provided the comparative analysis. In fact, what I did is we provided the 34C, the 37C, 38C, and 39C. Those are the forms for the governor, the senator, and the women rep. We tallied against the presidential. I want to refer the court to paragraph 36 of Moses Ledama's affidavit for the court to look at it. And if you do a tally, and we started with a tally for Senate, if you do a tally for the votes that were cast for the Senate, vis-a-vis, and that, your ladyship, that runs from page 13 of Ledama's affidavit up to page 15. And I just did the summary analysis, but there's a very big comparative table that I've put out there. If you do the analysis, you will come to the following conclusion. What is the voter difference between the senator and the presidential? 500 votes. The variance. And how do we account for those variants? So when you do the presidential like for like and the senator, you will get a difference of 22,801. You have to minus diaspora voters, which only vote for the presidential. You have to minus prisons, which only vote in the presidential elections. Okay? And then you have to look at stations which were affected and did not have any results for any of those elective posts. For example, in some of the stations, some few stations, some violence happened. Likely they did not report for Senate. When you do that analysis, you will get the differential is 500 votes. I have done an elaborate analysis also on the stray ballots. When we get to that, I will explain. So the differential between the Senate and the presidential is 500 votes. And that 500 votes, we can account for in stray ballots. I have attached the polling day diaries for Kibra and Makadara. I have done an analysis to actually check what is the stray ballot per constituency. And this tally is like for like. So to the question whether there was a discrepancy between the presidential and the Senate vote, the answer is an emphatic no. It is explainable by looking at what the information that we have provided. To the second question, whether there was a discrepancy between the women member of National Assembly for the women rep as compared to the presidential, I will tell the court to look at page 18, page 17 and 18 of Moses Ledama's affidavit. And our answer is there is no much difference. And the differences can be accounted for. The variance analysis we have provided. To the question whether there was a we have also explained that there's no such variance. Petitioners have been talking of variance of 800,000, 900,000. There's no such variance. And in fact, the small variance that you will see for the women rep, which is 9,419, can be explained for by the stray ballots. A small analysis we did for the stray ballots, your ladyship, is that in Kebra constituency alone, we did a stray ballot analysis, and it's shown there. So to explain, and this is how we understood the court to mean the duty of the IEBC is to explain each ballot cast and track that ballot to see where it has gone. So once we do the analysis for the presidential and we remove the prison voters, once we remove the people who voted for diaspora, once we removed some of the small polling stations that did not report for any of those seats, you will see a small variance. So we thought the court will ask where that small variance is coming from. And so what I did is we went and we went to sample one of the constituencies in Nairobi. And in one of the constituencies, Kibra constituency, we got 405 stray ballots. So you can't account for the way it will work is it will take from any of those ballots small incremental numbers. So you will see a variance of 500 here, 200 here, but cumulatively it is not something that cannot be explained. And I have attached all the polling day diaries. In fact, if you look at the Form 34A, which was supplied to the court, some of the comment section will indicate that they found some stray ballot in the presidential ballot. But to the court, whether there is discrepancy between the senatorial, governor, and the women rep seats as compared to the presidential, there is none. We have demonstrated that with data. And even when there's a small variance, we have shown the stray ballots that cumulatively over those 3 seats, that will be there. A question was, a submission was made by Learned Counsel, Ms. Julie Soweto, that there is 33 per polling station stray ballots in Kirinyaga. I will explain that. I don't know what numbers they are using. It's an old litigation strategy in numbers for shock and awe. I think what they are trying to, if you look at the numbers for Kirinyaga, there is no difference between presidential and the governor of 22,000. In fact, the variance is 900 votes, which can be explained for by the stray ballot. The number they have indicated for governor, I don't know where they have gotten it from, is not what is in our 37C, and we've indicated that in our submission and also in our presentation. So to the question that the court asked, that whether there are inexplainable discrepancies between the votes cast for presidential as against the governor, for presidential as against the women rep, for presidential as against the Senate, the same is not borne out by the data that we have provided to the court. Now I'll go to another issue which was made heavy weather of by learned counsels on the voter turnout. Justice Smoking Wanjala asked, how important is the voter turnout to the actual valid votes and to the actual declarations? Of course, it's an important issue. The only problem with it is that counsel are not understanding how we calculate voter turnout. And I want to explain to the court how voter turnout calculation is done using the kits. Pursuant to the Maina Kiai case, the court was very emphatic that elections must be conducted at the polling stations. And pursuant to that, voter turnout reporting is done per polling station. So how do we do it? When the polling station opens and Kenyans are voting, depending on the network access of the kits will be sending us information every 2 hours. The kit will be telling us 200 people has passed by this kit in this polling station, and that information will be collated until the end of polling day. So 2 things to note here. The first one is that the reporting is done per KIMS, per polling station of the reporting KIMS. So for example, on the 9th August 2022, when the polls closed, the IEBC gave a turnout figure of 56.1679%, which is the percentage turnout. That correlated to the total number of registered voters in those schemes, in those polling stations. The problem that the petitioners are having, they're saying these 56.1679% you announced must be of the total people in the register, which is 22,140,000 258. 120,258. We don't do that. We report per KIMS. So if 200 people reported in that KIM and the number of registered voters is 600, we say 200 of 600 voters. We add the next KIM, 300 people have reported, we say 300 over 600 voters. The next KIM, 400 people, KIMs have reported, 400 over 600. We keep on aggregating until we see how many KIMs have reported of those polling stations. Why do we do that? Because of two reasons. The first one is, which is in the affidavit of Hussein Marjan and the affidavit of the chairman, because of network issues in some places, far-flung places in Kenya, some of those KIMs will report late. Some of those KIMs will report much later. So if we did a number over the total number of registered voters, we'll be giving a false turnout. So the turnout we give is based on the aggregated voters of the reporting station in that KIM. So if you took when we announced, the 56.1679% is based on the total registered voters in those stations who have reported in those KIMs, which was 21,481,642. Your Ladyship, you'll realize this is much lower than the total number of registered voters. And we'll keep on accumulating. KIMs will keep on reporting. 235 polling stations went manual. We will have to later on aggregate the 235 polling stations which went manual. Then we come with a total voter turnout. And if that is the reporting we do, two arguments that have been made in the petition of Omtata and in the petition of number 5 fall off. The first one is, their contention is that the chairman announced a turnout on 10th August 2022. That is the third line, Your Ladyship and members of the court, announced a turnout of 65.4%. What we have indicated is 64.6%. Your Ladyship, I will pause there to just inform the court that the chairman clarified that statement. The recording is in the affidavit of the chairman. And the actual clarification the chairman gave, he said that the total reporting polling stations, and if you hear his statement, it will give some clarification. We never say the total number of registered voters, because we will have that information when our manual count and everything has reported. We say total number of polling stations reporting. So in those KIMs. So they're saying 64.6% must be of the total registered voters. That is their contention. That is their voter turnout. That is not the voter turnout of IEBC. The voter turnout as a percentage was, at that point, 64.6%. The number of reporting KIMs were 21,926,565. You will notice from this number, there are some polling KIMs which haven't reported. As they go to the constituency tallying center, those KIMs will report. You will also notice that we haven't included the manual count to give us a total figure of the total voters who will have registered, who will have reported. On 10 August, when all the KIMs returns have come from all the polling stations, the number of persons identified, that is the last number on the table, 14,239,862. As against the total registered voters in those stations which reuse the KIMs, 22,005,541, giving a turnout of 64.7103. You notice, Your Ladyship, we haven't included the manual count. So that is all KIMs in all polling stations. What remains now? Manual count. And this is important. I will pause there. We were very deliberate in trying to help the court in be able to identify and actually provide an audit process for the contesting parties' allegations. In that affidavit of Michael Ouma, we have attached 7 volumes of the KIMs returns for every polling stations in the Republic. Why is that important for the petitioners and the court? That is the first audit trail process. How is it at the first audit trail process of? We've provided the KIMS returns per polling stations in the Republic. We've also provided the certified copy of the 30A. So if anyone wanted to look at how many people pass in that polling station, you will look at your KIMS return, you will look at your 34A. And if there's any inconsistencies between the KIMS return and the 34A provided to the court, then question can be asked to our client. So in providing an audit trail process, the first way of providing an audit, which is both manual and electronic, is the KIMS return provided in the affidavit of Michael Ouma in 7 volumes, as against the certified copy of 34A we provided as per the regulations of this court. So we provided that. And if you look at those KIMS returns, they will correspond with this. They are from 45,994 polling stations. The number of identified by KIMS, 14,229,862. The total number of registered voters, 22,005,591. And the percentage is as indicated. We've indicated how many KIMS there were. And I just want and after the aggregation of the manual and the KIMS, and that's the table that's there. So to the question, I think that is important for the court, and the court will ask, is the first question that the court will ask, what is the registered voters in the Republic? And I think that is not contested. 22,120,458. I think it's in the affidavit of everyone, that the register is publicly available, that can be accessed. How many polling stations do we have in the Republic? 46,229. How many people are registered in those polling stations? 22,120,458. How many polling stations were authenticated through using the kits? 45,994. How many registered voters are those in those polling stations? 14,239,862. What are the registered voters in those polling stations authenticated through the kits? 22,005,591. What are the polling stations that were not authenticated through the kits? 235, out of which 6 polling stations, 3 in Eldas and 3 in Quisero, there was violence. And no voting took place, in fact, at the time of that. And so how many polling stations went manual? Using complementary system, 229. What are the number of voters authenticated through the complementary manual system? 86,889. What are the registered voters in those 235 polling stations? 114,917. Why are these numbers important? They are important for audit trail. First, we have provided the KIMS returns to the court, which can be compared as against. Secondly, 99.9914% of Kenyans were authenticated through the KIMS. Less than 0.001 Kenyans were authenticated through a complementary mechanism. And the reason why I go back to that is giving the court an integrity check as to what we did. So if we are telling the court that 99.99% of Kenyans were authenticated through the kits, we have provided the receipts from those kits to the court, we have provided the Form 34A, then the court can compare and will bear out the work we did. Another allegation falls off. So what is the allegation in the Omtata petition? And I will go back to the turnout table. Ladyship. They are saying that the turnout announced by the chairman on 10th August 2022 must be over the total registered voters. That is where the mysterious 140,000 is coming from. So they're saying the 64.60 must be from the 22,124,058. We're telling them that is not how we calculate our turnout. It was very easy to confirm with us and ask us how you do it. We're telling them That number is out of 21,926,565. We could not do it over the registered voters because some stations went manual, some KIMS had not reported. How will we give a number over a total in which we don't know the status of some of those stations? Because the returns have to come for us to be able to give that. So they're saying 64.6 over the total voter turnout will give you 140,000. IEBC has not accounted for 140,000 voters. It's a lie. I think they are wrong on the maths, and they are wrong on the substance, and they are wrong on the substratum of how we are calculating that. And I think it's imperative that the court understands that. So the issue of 140,000 is not here nor there, and we have demonstrated that. And the second issue is they say that there was 110 voters error, 110 error in the Form C. By virtue of that, the Form C is not a valid vote. We have acknowledged that error. It's a data entry error in 2 stations in Kilifi and 1 station in West Pokot. It is the error form for the C is attached to the chairman's affidavit of 110. The Form C is a collation of 46,229 polling stations, and there is an error of 110 in which we have explained the data entry. I think that is not something that is material to the Form C for the court to say that a Form C is invalid because of an error which you have acknowledged. Your Ladyship, we also want to confirm to the court, we have done an error report for each and every polling station in the Republic. And this is going to be, and we really are craving for the scrutiny report to bear, and this will bear us out. That the voters, what Kenyans voted on the 9th of August is what was transmitted, and it's what was actually announced by the chairman. The will of the Kenyan people was carried out through and through. And that will be borne on by the scrutiny of those ballot boxes. That will be borne out by the information and the data we have given. And that is really important. The other issue I want to actually address is allegations that have been, Your Ladyship, if I could just go to the affidavit of Mother, I mean, this is what I was talking to. I mean, there's an allegation of paragraph 96 of the affidavit of the petitioner that alleges there's a variance of 25,000 between governor and president. The correct position is there's a variance of 900. It's worth noting the county is home to 2 prisons. And this is what the court should, and we can provide the court with, even if the court is inclined to even order us to bring all the original Form 34As and the Cs. We are ready and willing to provide that to the court. Some of these allegations, when you look at it, you really cringe that the allegations that are being made on these numbers, they have no basis. You will actually wonder how will someone write something like that in the petition? We have provided a tally of our the C series for the governor, for the senator, and the women rep. And we're ready to provide that to the court. We have put that in our affidavit. We are ready to provide whatever the courts will require to actually prove some of those numbers that are being banded. And some of these numbers are just meant for awe and shock, because it is very shocking to the court, to the conscience of the court, if you are told there are 25,000 people who walked into the polling stations in Kirinyaga, voted for the presidential candidate and did not vote for anyone else. It's really amazing. I will expect a variance because of the small stray ballots here and there, or maybe the prisons and diaspora, but it will not be 25,000. It's something should be that is explainable. And that is why the petitioners are wrong on the data, they are wrong on the numbers. And I will also demonstrate they are very wrong on even the ICT. I will add on to what Judge Eric Gumbo had also submitted. There are 2 allegations that are being made that the Form 34A, and I want to explain this to the court. So we have 3 audit trails or 3 verification processes for the court. The first I mentioned, it's the EVI, the electronic voter identification. We have given the KIMS return to the court. So the court will look at the KIMS returns and look at the AWL, the tally. The second one is when the Form 34A is being sent, and I've seen a lot of wild allegations being made, and I want to just explain this to the court. At the end of the polling, what happens is the kit, it converts itself into an RTS system, a result transmission system. The PO scans a QR code, it gives him a transition system. So it tells him, okay, Mr. PO, what do you want to transmit? Enter your PIN. He will enter his code. It gives him a query. You tell him, what do you want to do? He says, I want to transmit 34A. It tells him, okay, can you confirm the following checks have happened? And that's a validation check. Can you confirm that this form is signed by a PO? He says, yes. Can you confirm that this form is signed by a DRO, a deputy PO? He says, yes. Can you confirm this form is a 34A? He says, yes. Can you confirm this form has been signed by the agent? He says, yes. So after saying all that, then he tells him, take an image. And there's a lot of things being bandied here about the image. And we can provide, I think we've done training for the IBC has done training for everyone, for LSK and the judges. And this is something that we can even provide if the kids are required. The kids takes an image, embedded in it, it has a scanner, and the image that is embedded in the KIMS. So it's taking the image, and it's taking the image and scanning it as a PDF. We don't have any other output. We don't, and there's a reason why I'll explain to you why that input is being made, why it's like that for purposes of the security and the other purposes. He takes the image. It actually tells him if the image is not clear, it will tell him your image is not clear. Please retake it. So he takes his image and he presses send. That image travels from that, it is gone. He cannot recall. In fact, even if he does not have network, it will tell him the image has been sent. It will arrive when it will arrive. That image cannot be recalled in PDF. There's nothing that can be called. That scanned image in PDF, there's nothing that can be done about it. That is gone. When he gets a network, or immediately if he has network, it will hit our portal. Now, when it hits our portal, it's something akin to someone who's coming in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is established by the Constitution, and it has the jurisdiction by the court.